Good evening, I'm Nadia Jani and you're watching A News. Let's see your headlines. Hamas releases videos of Israeli hostages, prompting harsh response from Israel's Prime Minister. US President Donald Trump says he's ready to introduce more sanctions against Russia. And plastic pollution talks begin in Geneva for its 5th round of negotiations. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar is urging global action after disturbing hostage videos were released by Hamas. He says the condition of the captives is alarming. Sa'ar criticised the UN and international community for staying silent on the suffering of Israeli hostages who remain without Red Cross access despite prior agreements. He called for global pressure and said he would attend a special UN Security Council session to demand action. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has pledged to press on with the war in Gaza and secure the release of hostages. His comments come after the release of a new video from Hamas. We have to warn you, some viewers may find the images in this report too graphic.
Footage released over the weekend by Hamas has reignited public anger in Israel. The videos show 2 Israeli hostages, both in visibly deteriorating condition. In one video, Eviatar David is seen inside a Gaza tunnel, saying he has gone without food for days, and he is now digging his own grave. The 24-year-old was taken during the October 7th attack.
Then lentils, then I ate nothing. Lentils, again I ate nothing, and then again I ate nothing.
His family confirmed the video's authenticity and permitted its release. A second video shows hostage Rom Braslavsky describing extreme physical and mental stress and pleading for basic necessities.
I can't sleep. I can't live. You have to stop what you're doing here. What's wrong with you? What's gotten into you? Why are you doing this to us? Bring in food. I am surviving on less than a litre of water. I am lying on the bed, on the mattress, 24 hours a day.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the footage on Sunday, calling it disturbing and vowing to continue to destroy Hamas.
But we will not break. I am filled with even stronger determination to free our kidnapped sons, to eliminate Hamas, and to ensure that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to the state of Israel.
The videos triggered protests in Tel Aviv and other cities, with demonstrators urging the government to reach a deal for the hostages' return. Israeli officials say 50 hostages are still in Gaza, with only around 20 believed to be alive.
The humanitarian situation in Gaza remains critical as more hunger-related deaths are reported. Aid continues to enter from Egypt, but concerns persist over its distribution and access. Israel blames Hamas for the crisis and says it's taken steps to increase aid access, allowing in fuel, providing protected delivery routes, and pausing combat operations. Israel's military liaison body says over 23,000 tons of humanitarian aid entered Gaza last week, but many trucks have yet to be distributed. Hamas claims nearly 1,600 trucks have arrived since late July, though some reports suggest looting by armed gangs and desperate civilians is hindering delivery. The US has signalled a tougher stance on Moscow over Russia's war with Ukraine. President Trump warned of looming sanctions while aerial attacks escalate on both sides of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Here's the latest.
Special Envoy of US Steve Witkoff may travel to Russia this coming week. That's according to US President Donald Trump, who said that Witkoff might potentially visit on Wednesday or Thursday, as he warns he would impose sanctions if Moscow does not agree to a ceasefire in the war in Ukraine.
Well, there'll be sanctions, but they seem to be pretty good at avoiding sanctions. You know, they're wily characters, and they're pretty good at avoiding sanctions, so we'll see what happens. But Steve is focused right now on the border in terms of, we're talking about with Gaza, getting people fed. And he may be going, I think next week, Wednesday or Thursday, may be going to Russia. They would like to see him. They've asked that he meet. So we'll see what happens.
The US president, who returned to power on a pledge to swiftly end the war, has in recent weeks rolled back his earlier conciliatory approach toward Moscow and signaled openness to arming Ukraine. The comments come as tensions between Russia and Ukraine continue to rise as both sides launched new aerial attacks on key military and infrastructure targets. Russia said it struck Ukrainian drone facilities and made gains in Donetsk, Sumy, and Kharkiv, while claiming to have shot down more than 300 Ukrainian drones in one day. In response, Ukraine carried out drone strikes inside Russia, hitting fuel sites, a drone base, and an electronics plant. Several people were reported killed or injured. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia had launched more than 5,000 glide bombs and thousands of drones in July alone. He called for stronger international sanctions to stop further attacks. President Trump condemned Russia's actions and warned that if President Putin doesn't agree to a deal by the 8th of August, new economic sanctions will be imposed.
US Senate Majority Leader John Thune is signalling readiness to push forward with a sweeping sanctions package against Russia if a ceasefire in Ukraine is not achieved within the next few days. The legislation, introduced by Senator Lindsey Graham and backed by more than 80 senators, is seen as a tool to support President Trump's efforts to end the Russia-Ukraine war. In an exclusive interview with The Post, Thune said to the Senate is ready to move if Trump gives the go-ahead. Trump, who recently shortened a previous 50-day deadline to just 10 days, criticized Russian President Vladimir Putin for continuing attacks on Ukrainian cities.
All the time. Pardon me for being late.
US President Donald Trump vowed to substantially raise tariffs on Indian exports, accusing India of buying large quantities of discounted Russian oil and reselling it for big profits, despite the massive human toll in Ukraine. He didn't specify how high new tariffs would go, which is on top of the 25% duty already imposed. Over the weekend, two Indian government sources told that India will keep purchasing oil from Russia despite President Trump's threats. The sources did not wish to be identified due to the sensitivity of the matter. As part of the ongoing Joint Sea 2025 exercise, Chinese and Russian warships formed mixed formations and exchanged real-time sea and air data. The coordination enhances interoperability and operational readiness in the region.
Chinese and Russian naval forces have entered the maritime phase of their Joint Sea 2025 military exercise near Vladivostok, running from August 1st to 5. Warships from both sides formed mixed formations and shared real-time data on sea and air conditions to coordinate operations. The drills include submarine rescue, anti-submarine warfare, air and missile defence, and maritime combat, under the themes of protecting strategic sea routes and countering Western Pacific threats.
Previously, the Chinese and Russian naval forces formed a joint command headquarters and organised map simulations based on the exercise plan and drill programme. We conducted in-depth discussions on issues such as organisational form and force coordination, and revised and improved the exercise course plan and safety plan.
Russian commander echoed the importance of mutual understanding the success of joint missions.
I have met the captain and formation commander, the first step in communication, which is very important for both of us. Only by understanding each other can we better understand our joint operations, get to know what will happen and what missions we will carry out.
The Joint Command Centre, now a key hub for planning and coordination, continues to strengthen operational ties. Following the conclusion of the current joint exercise, some forces will head to the Pacific Ocean for the 6th Joint Maritime Patrol.
To delve deeper into this subject, I'm now joined by Ivani Vaselur, an international relations professor at State University of New York. Hello.
Oh, hello. Nice to talk to you.
Nice to see you. My first question is, are joint military exercises between Russia and China a reason behind the deployment of US nuclear submarines?
Well, certainly from the perspective of the US government, these actions between China and Russia are a reason for concern. And the fact is that both Russia and China are, as we know already, intensifying their contacts, their ties at several levels, including the military level and including international trade. United States, yes, moved some submarines, right, as a result of some statements made past week by the Russian government in relation to the demands made by the US that Russia must agree with a ceasefire. But obviously, Russia said that it's not committed to that, not yet, that Russia welcomes talks with the United States, but that Russia considers dangerous to talk about nuclear development at this point or nuclear deployment at this point. Situation is complex. There are all these trade talks going on as well. So they are part of this complex mix involving Russia and the war in Ukraine and the question of India buying oil from Russia, China buying oil from Russia, and also the situation between Russia and Iran.
And do you think the tariffs, sanctions and nuclear submarines will deter Putin at all? Is there anything that can deter him, you think?
Based on the statements coming from the Kremlin, particularly from the spokesperson, right, the press secretary in the Kremlin, no. There is no way that Russia would accept an imposition from the United States. And it's precisely statements like these that made the US government to move the nuclear submarines there to the region in Eastern Europe. US government insists that a ceasefire must be achieved in a very few days from now. And now, as mentioned by President Trump, his envoy, Witkoff, is going to be in Moscow. We don't know if Wednesday or Thursday, and to see what can be done regarding ceasefire. But there is apparently no confirmation, no any indication that the Russian government will accept a ceasefire proposal.
And just on that, you mentioned US envoy Steve Witkoff, who is hopefully going to be seeing someone from Moscow in regards to a ceasefire. If talks are discussed, what do you think could happen? What can we expect if the two were to meet?
Certainly, Witkoff is going to Moscow with a message from President Trump. And the message is that if Russia does not accept the ceasefire agreement in a few days, must be, according to President Trump, in a few days. If this is not accepted by the Kremlin, what's going to happen is that the United States is willing to impose trade sanctions, heavy, according to President Trump, on Russia. Trade sanctions that the US government is applying, imposing on several countries. But it seems that if there is no agreement about the ceasefire, Russia could be the target of very high tariffs, even higher than the ones that have been applied to other countries. And so it is a lack of agreement is a diplomatic conflict, and unfortunately, the continuation of the war on Ukraine.
And do you think that Trump could be running out of options? Obviously, he's threatening all these high sanctions, tariffs, etc. Does he have enough negotiating power to end the war in Ukraine?
The negotiation power that he has at this moment is, or are possibly two. One, it continue with the threat of very high tariffs on international trade between Russia and United States. And the second one is this idea that other countries must stop buying oil from Russia. And yeah, the Trump government, the Trump administration is threatening countries, is threatening India, is threatening China, and has threatened Brazil as well. Because Brazil also buys some oil from Russia, precisely like India and like China. This seems to be the instruments that the Trump administration, the trade instruments, is essentially economic foreign policy that U.S. has at this point to put pressure to see an end on the war in Ukraine. That is something that the Trump administration is trying to achieve, the peace, since January 21st.
Thank you for joining me, Ivani Vaselur. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Pleasure.
Now to West Africa, where heavy rains have killed at least 15 people in Guinea's capital, Conakry. The downfall has led to forced evacuations. Floodwaters have overwhelmed crumbling infrastructure, leaving streets submerged and bridges buckling. Volunteer rescuers have been searching for missing people, with over 130 homes left damaged. The government says it's rushing to improve drainage systems and relocate at-risk communities as the peak of the rainy season brings more devastation. In India, monsoon rains have triggered floods and chaos across parts of Uttar Pradesh and in parts of North Bengal districts.
Heavy monsoon rains have caused rivers to overflow in northern Uttar Pradesh and eastern West Bengal, flooding neighbourhoods and cutting off access in multiple districts. In Prayagraj, floodwaters rose high enough to submerge a police outpost up to its first story. Personnel from India's National Disaster Response Force were deployed to evacuate people trapped inside, navigating the deep waters to reach those stranded. In West Bengal, parts of the state face similar flooding as rising river levels swept into homes and streets. Emergency services are monitoring the situation closely, with concerns the rainfall could intensify further. Meanwhile, in the northern town of Mandi, where flash floods had already claimed at least 3 lives earlier in the week, a massive landslide struck, blocking roads and complicating recovery efforts. Monsoon floods in India occur every year during the June to September season, with the 2025 rains causing severe flooding and landslides since early summer. These floods have intensified recently due to changing weather patterns and infrastructure challenges. India's monsoon season plays a vital role in its nearly $4 trillion economy, delivering around 70% of the rainfall needed to irrigate crops and refill water sources. Nearly half the country's farmland still lacks irrigation and depends entirely on this seasonal rain. But when the downpours are excessive, they often trigger flooding, landslides, and severe waterlogging, especially in areas with outdated or insufficient drainage systems.
Negotiators convene in Geneva for the critical final push from the 5th to the 14th of August with world leaders and climate scientists. The most controversial issues include capping production, managing plastic products and chemicals of concern, along with financing to help developing countries implement the treaty.
More than 170 countries will gather on Tuesday at the United Nations in Geneva for what's widely considered a last chance round of negotiations on a global plastics treaty. Delegates will restart talks that stalled in Busan last December because the old final session produced no deal.
I want an effective treaty. I want a treaty that ends plastic pollution, including in the marine environment. That's why we're here. We're not here to not get something or to get something that's meaningless. But the reality is also, and this is where, 40 years in this business, the impacts are here and now. And we have to stop this from spiraling out of control.
Countries want binding caps on virgin plastic production, while major oil and petrochemical states like Saudi Arabia, Russia, and even the US push instead for a treaty confined to downstream issues like waste disposal, recycled design, and voluntary action. Scientists warn failing to act could raise plastic production to levels triple by 2060, with catastrophic effects on oceans, climate, and public health.
It's super important because we find plastics everywhere we look, from the deepest ocean trenches up to the Himalaya mountain. So, and also in our bodies, where we look, we find it in blood, in the human lungs, and in the placenta. Even before the babies are born, they're exposed to it. So this just highlights that we really need to get a grip on plastic pollution.
After years of mounting pressure, governments are working to finalise a groundbreaking international treaty to end plastic pollution. It's a historic opportunity, but policy alone won't save our oceans.
A statement by Hungarian member of European Parliament, Csaba Demeter from the Fidesz party, is shedding light on mechanisms that may explain the persistent and often unfounded bias of the European Parliament. According to Hungary Today, Demeter revealed a database of over 37,000 contracts worth 17 billion euros between the European Commission and several NGOs from 2019 to 2023. He claimed most of the funds went to politically active groups targeting conservative governments, not genuine civil society efforts. Demeter compared the system to US agency USAID, calling it a liberal money distribution machine lacking democratic legitimacy. He described it as a form of systematic and legalized corruption within the European Parliament. OPEC Plus has agreed to raise oil production by over 500,000 barrels per day, starting in September. The move reverses earlier cuts and follows US pressure on members such as India to reduce Russian oil imports. The group cited strong demand and low global inventories as reasons for the increase. Officials say the decision could be revised depending on market conditions. OPEC Plus will meet again on the 7th of September. Thousands of Boeing workers in the US have gone on strike after rejecting the company's latest contract offer. The walkout comes in the middle of ongoing challenges for the aerospace giant.
About 3,200 union members at Boeing plants in Missouri and Illinois walked off the job Monday. They're part of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers and say the company's contract offer doesn't meet their demands. Boeing had offered a 4-year deal with a 20% wage increase, a $5,000 bonus, and more vacation and sick leave. The company said wages would rise by about 40% on average, but the union says workers deserve better pay and recognition for their skills.
Our membership spoke loud and clear today that they're not happy with Boeing's latest proposal. their last best and final offer. It didn't meet the membership's expectations, and we're here to do our best to get our membership a contract that they can be happy with and gratify.
Boeing says it was ready for the strike and has plans to keep work going with non-union employees. Union leaders say these workers build important defence aircraft and need a fair contract to protect their families.
Ukraine is preparing to host Turkish President Erdogan after President Zelensky delivered a personal invitation, which Erdogan appears to have accepted. Ukrainian ambassador to Turkey, Nariman Jalal, said in an interview with RBC Ukraine that the key topic of the visit may be the ratification of the free trade agreement between the countries. According to the ambassador, the Ukrainian side is currently actively working on organising the visit of Turkish president. This visit requires significant efforts since there are many issues that hinder its implementation, Jalal said. The UK and Turkey have entered a promising new phase in their economic partnership as negotiations to modernise their free trade agreement have begun. According to British Consul General and Trade Commissioner Kenan Pelayo, the updated agreement aims to reflect the realities of modern trade, expanding beyond goods to cover sustainability, services and innovation. With bilateral trade already surpassing £27 billion, Turkey stands among the UK's largest trading partners. Both countries are actively exploring deeper collaboration in key sectors such as clean energy, advanced manufacturing and mobility. A recent milestone in defence ties was the signing of a memorandum for Turkey to join the Eurofighter Typhoon programme. Pelayo described this as a strategic breakthrough, with a third of the aircraft to be built in the UK, promising mutual benefits in defence, security and industrial development.
Clean energy is one of those key areas, as well as the other 7 areas that we've highlighted in that strategy, supporting really big low carbon solar projects here, for example, including the Karapinar, to those really innovative companies that are going to lead to growth, I think is going to be a key area where I'd see further opportunity development.
Armenian authorities have arrested a suspect involved in a major international fraud scheme. The website offered fake investments where more than 1,400 victims from several countries lost a total of millions of dollars after being promised high returns. The organised group behind the scam included at least 144 members, some minors operating fake investment websites from the late 2021 until last year. The suspect now faces charges of large-scale computer theft. Iran says it's now entered a new phase in its relationship with the UN nuclear watchdog as the IAEA's Deputy Director General prepares to visit within the next 10 days. But the chairman of the National Security Committee of the Iranian Parliament, Ibrahim Azizi, said the delegation will not be permitted physical access to any nuclear sites. Our reporter has more from Tehran.
Foreign Ministry spokesman Baghai told a weekly press conference that the IAEA Deputy Director General will be visiting Iran in the next 10 days, while Tehran and the UN nuclear watchdog have entered a new phase of relations. The visit follows Parliament's decision in late June on suspension of cooperation with the agency after IAEA failed to condemn the US and Israeli airstrikes against Iran's civilian nuclear facilities under its safeguards. The spokesman added that the government will redefine its ties with the agency after the upcoming visit and in compliance with the legislation. Earlier, the Beirut-based Al Mayadin TV, quoting unnamed sources, reported that IAEA will be sending a delegation to Tehran soon to review only political aspects of Iran's cooperation with the agency, and that the delegation is not consisting of any inspectors. Tehran has said that it will lodge a complaint against the IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi for his false reports on Iran's nuclear program, which were used as a pretext for the Israeli-US attacks last June. Iran has also vowed a decisive response to the threat by the European powers to reimpose the UN nuclear sanctions in October, amid growing calls in Iran in domestic political circles for withdrawal from the Non-Proliferation Treaty. In the meantime, Deputy Foreign Minister Saeed Khatibzadeh said in an interview with the Hong Kong-based Phoenix TV that Iran does not want to cease its cooperation with IAEA. According to IRNA news agency, he said the inspectors left Iran voluntarily. They were not expelled and they will return in coming months. Turaj Shiralilu, reporting for A News TV, Tehran.
Staying with Iran, it has also approved the formation of a new defense council to strengthen its National Guard against external threats. According to the Supreme National Security Council, the body will be chaired by President and top officials from the judiciary, parliament and the military. The council's mission is to draft national defense strategies and enhance the combat readiness of Iran's armed forces. The decision follows Article 176 of Iran's constitution, which outlines the framework for national security planning. And joining us to discuss this further is Lames Jardid, independent international political analyst in Geneva. Good evening, how are you?
Good evening, well, thank you.
My first question is, what do you think has caused Iran to set up this defense council, and what should we expect from it?
Yeah, listen, I think Iran feels so much now being encircled from the north by Azerbaijan, with what's happening in Azerbaijan, from the South Armenia and also the Kurdistan. From all directions, Iran is being targeted. This is how it feels. And I think also what's happening in the Middle East and the real success of the spread of the ISIS fighters in the Middle East, that they are somehow a defeat for the Shias in the Middle East. I think they feel a real threat. So they are really so busy now preparing for a possible attack maybe against Iran, especially because for now the United States are getting ready, moving its submarines. The White House is having a real issue with the Epstein affairs. So all this will have geopolitical consequences, and I think now a confrontation between the USA and America is a little bit risky for the American and for both sides, I think. So it seems to me more and more that some kind of attack might happen against Iran.
And because of that, do you think that this is a signal to the international community that says that Iran is getting ready to defend itself if there is some form of a possible attack from, its neighbours or further afield?
You know, what happened in the 13th of June had showed us really that Iran has a real good deterrence now when it comes to its defense system. And it's a game changer, I believe, because it showed so much precision and accuracy that surprised us all, especially with this Fadi 1. And I think now information is being revealed slowly. We know more and more about what really happened in this 10 days war. So I believe, yes, now things have been changing, and even Israel, I think it will look differently to what might happen now if any possible aggression happened against Iran.
And Iran has said that the threat of attack from Israel still remains. What do you think the main goal of this Defense Council will be, and what does Iran's president want to achieve with this new council?
You know, this new council is first, I think, to secure all what Iran achieved till this moment, despite the last attack that has been happened against them. First, to secure really what they achieve, and second, I think, is to be ready for whatever scenarios might be preparing itself for them. So I believe now the Iranians take it very seriously, especially now with the affairs that's happening in the White House. They need really. Mr. Trump is being cornered, I think, with these affairs, and he needs to do something. So I think the Iranians are getting just ready for any scenarios, as I'm reading.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me, Lemis Jadid. Thank you.
Thank you.
Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian wrapped up the two-day visit to Pakistan, where both sides pledged to boost trade to $10 billion and strengthen border security. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif condemned Israeli strikes on Iran and reaffirmed Pakistan's support for Iran's nuclear program. As long as it remained peaceful, the leaders signed 12 agreements covering energy, tourism and counter-terrorism, with plans to resume direct flights between Islamabad and Tehran after 2 decades. Pezeshkian said the visit marked a step toward greater regional unity. China has reached a major trade milestone, dispatching its 20,000 freight train to Europe through the Middle Corridor. The milestone train, loaded with 55 containers, departed from Erenhot railway station in Inner Mongolia. Since its launch in 2013, traffic along the route has surged, doubling from 10,000 trains in 2022 to 20,000 today. Officials say the corridor is not only boosting economic connectivity, but also reinforcing its value as a strategic alternative in the global freight movement. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has called for urgent global and regional support for Afghanistan. He warns that millions continue to suffer under worsening conditions. Our correspondent Tamim Bahis has more from Kabul.
At the launch of the United Nations Regional Center for Sustainable Development Goals in Almaty, Kazakhstan, Secretary-General Antonio Guterres singled out Afghanistan as a priority for international cooperation. He thanked Kazakhstan for its growing support, saying nowhere is the cooperation more urgent than in our support to Afghanistan. Guterres described the challenges facing Afghans, including entrenched poverty, mass displacement, and repeated natural disasters. He said the people of Afghanistan deserve peace, stability, and a better future. He also reiterated the United Nations' demand for full respect for human rights, especially the rights of women and girls, calling for economic self-sufficiency and dignity across Afghan society. The new regional center, launched in partnership with local and international institutions, aims to support long-term development and cross-border cooperation. Kazakhstan, which maintains strong ties with Afghanistan, is expected to play a key role. So far, Afghanistan's authorities has not responded to the Secretary-General's remarks or to the center's launch. But international pressure is growing for more engagement and accountability. The United Nations says solidarity and shared responsibility will be vital for Afghanistan's recovery. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for A News.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for watching and have a lovely evening.